Welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands, the podcast that introduces you to the visionary founders of America's fastest growing franchise opportunities. We'll also hear from industry pros as they share what it really takes to achieve the elusive milestone of 100 plus locations. I am your host, Frank Fiume, founder of I9 Sports, and my 20-year journey from inception to acquisition has given me a unique perspective on how to succeed in franchising. Join me as we welcome today's guest. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. On today's show, I have the co-founder of Onus IV Therapy and Longevity, Kristy Anderson, and the Chief Marketing Officer, Chaz Fallhaber. Hey, guys, how are you?
Hey, Frank.
Doing great. How are you?
Awesome. Great. Thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Great. All right. So, Kristy, tell us about Onus IV Therapy. How did you guys begin?
So we came up with the concept in the summer of 2014. I heard about this happening, IV therapy happening in the coastal areas like Miami and New York and even Las Vegas, more for hangovers, right? It was kind of seen as a party cure. And as Coloradans, I just kind of twisted it and thought, wouldn't this be great for athletics and recovery and so many other applications? So we heard about one in Arizona, and we were attending a mountain bike race anyway down there. So after 3 days of riding in the desert and, hanging out with friends and just getting dehydrated, we decided to check it out in Scottsdale. And we did it. We felt replenished, revived. We're like, we've got to do this in Colorado. So that's what we did. We partnered with our friend and medical director, Dr. Benjamin Wilkes. He's a board certified ER doctor. And the three of us put together the concept, and after many late nights at the kitchen table, we launched in May of 2015, and we were lean and mean. We didn't have a brick and mortar even yet. We didn't have much overhead. So we launched in a van, a Sprinter van, and we called her Large Marge. She was large and in charge. And so we would go to events like, Ironman and Leadville 100 and 5Ks and yoga festivals, and got the word out there. And launched our first brick and mortar at Denver Sports Recovery in fall of 2015.
Wow. All right. Kristy, what were you doing before this?
So I was in medical sales, and Chaz was working at a marketing and advertising agency.
Okay. All right. So now did I understand so you're the co-founder. So Kristy, when you came in, I guess Dr. Benjamin is the other considered co-founder, and Chaz, you came in. So did all three of you come in at the same time to launch this?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. And so Chaz, Chief Marketing Officer, is a brand new concept. What was that like for you trying to get this thing off the ground?
I mean, I saw the opportunity immediately because you have a lot of services, but not a lot of brands. And that's still kind of the case today. And so for a marketing guy, it's just an exciting place to be in because we continue to get to build, basically the standard as we see it, which is always fun from any marketing standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. Who came up with the name Onus? And what made it so significant?
We spent a lot of time with a couple different names, and I was out on a run one day, and the name came to me because it fit our parameters. We wanted a name that was within 6 letters. It had to be a name that no one else had so that we would have a chance to own the word. And when it comes to onus, it's an uncommon word. And even though it means, burden of responsibility, we chose to take that burden and flip it on its head and say, well, this is a good thing. If you want to perform, if you want to be better at anything in life, you're going to have to prepare and put in the effort. And so in that regard, it sets us apart from just being a reactive hydration hangover service. So yeah, it gave us a chance to really have a brand, not just a service.
This, by the way, is great business advice for anybody that's starting a company when it comes to naming your brand, because what you've done is trying to own that. By owning a name that's so unique, you probably know this, it's going to cost you more money to get that brand name out there, but it's going to pay dividends in the long run. And not to mention, everybody thinks, well, I can trademark something. But if you trademark a really easy name, you can't protect it. So why bother owning it?
Yeah, I'm glad that you understand that. I mean, before they chose Nike, they were considering the name Sector 6. How bad would that be for the company? Nike is such a better word, but it takes that effort to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. I went through that with my own company when I named my company I9 Sports, named after 9 eyes that were symbolic for my company. But truthfully, when we were trying to come up with a name, we had like all these generic sports names and it didn't feel right, but I knew that it was going to cost a lot more to really get the word out there so that people would understand. But I wanted it to be like Kleenex and Xerox, and that when people know the name, they refer to it. And I think you guys want to do the same thing when people say, I'm going to Onus. What they really mean is they're going for IV therapy, right?
And to make a good choice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So, Kristy, you start out, what is life like when you first launched this brand?
It was the wild, wild west.
Was it?
I mean, we were brand new industry, brand new business. We'd go to these events and people would look at us like we had 3 eyeballs, like, wait, you can do this outside of an emergency room?
Yeah.
Yes. And there's many.
And it's 2015. So yeah, I can see people thinking that back then.
Yeah, 2015, it was a really different world. People thought of this as a medical thing. They didn't understand the proactive side of it. So a lot of it was education, educating the consumer, teaching people that, hey, this isn't, you may have heard about it for hangovers, but you could do this for a cold or flu. You could go do this for travel preparation if you're going to be on a long haul flight. You could do this if, you're just exhausted and you've been running yourself ragged from work. So it was really crazy in the beginning because we did have a lot of that education piece. And now here we are 10 years later and people know about this now, right? And so it's enabled us to expand our services. We are proactive in hormone health now, peptides. It's not just about IV therapy anymore with us.
Brilliant, brilliant. And Chaz, I could only imagine you had quite the challenge to pull off because people didn't, like Kristy said, people didn't understand what this was and thought, you can't get this done from a Sprinter van just showing up, right? So from a marketing perspective, how did you overcome that challenge of getting that brand messaging across?
I mean, it became very apparent really quickly which marketing terms we were using that resonated the best. Like when people found out that we are, there isn't any regulation, but we follow ER protocols and we hire ER nurses. People immediately got, okay, so these are licensed, credible people that are doing the service. I think just being creative with how you talk to people, because there are so many different angles that people would come into the IV world that there really wasn't just one customer type. It's kind of like, it is, not to use Nike again, but it is kind of like shoes. There is an IV bag or a hormone treatment that fits literally everybody. So it's just being the one there that can listen and hopefully provide them with what they're looking for. So,
and in the very beginning, back in 2015, were you guys seeing more of those hangover clients, or were you seeing people for all different modes of recovery?
Definitely was a bit of everything. Being at DSR really opened up our audience type because Denver Sports Recovery is like an athletic recovery facility that the pros would have, but you can go there. It's almost like an ad for them now. But basically, the people were already used to proactive ways of recovery, and we fit in right there because we are that. We are a proactive agent of wellness. So it actually was about a third of our audience was hangovers, which was nice.
Kristy, was there a pivotal moment when you knew, I think we're really onto something big here?
Yes, I would say that in 2017, when we brought on our angel investor, we knew we had something. The fact that she was a loyal client who approached us and said, hey, I believe in what you're doing. I want to see this grow. That was the moment that we knew we could go beyond just one location and have multiple. And we started to see the audience. It was like a hockey stick, our sales numbers in those early years, because people started to catch on pretty quickly. And it's just how they felt. They felt amazing afterwards. People wanted, when we started having the membership model in 2017 as well, we saw the loyal clientele coming in more and more. And we knew this was the thing that really made people feel better.
Yeah. I'm so curious to know. I haven't talked to many emerging founders that have come in, started their company, and there's like 3 co-founders basically that have come into starting a brand. How did you guys navigate that to make sure that you guys weren't kind of stepping on each other? And how did you make that all work?
Well, we all are so different in our background. So as Chaz mentioned, he's marketing and advertising. He's the brand genius. He came up with our color Pantones and our brand feel, our look, our vibe. The lounges don't feel medical at all. I'm sitting here in our private room at one and you can see this big, beautiful mural behind me. That's all Chaz. I don't have that creativity. But I come from a sales background, so I've got the business strategy side. That's where my head lies, is going that direction. And of course, Dr. Ben, being medical, he's the one providing oversight. He creates our SOPs. So we all collaborate together on certain things, but we really have such different backgrounds that our strengths shine in different areas.
And how did you cross paths with Dr. Ben?
Actually, it was Tinder.
Okay.
So we had a backer in the beginning. She was kind of working behind the scenes, and she went on a Tinder date with him, and she's like, "Hey, I think I found your medical director." So
Wow, you see,
we all went on a date.
not just LinkedIn then.
Well, take your pick.
Well, and the even better part was that we found out on that first dinner date that we were all huge mountain bikers. Dr. Wilkes actually used to teach downhill mountain biking in Bolivia for a summer, which is awesome. So yeah, like we became friends through the business, which was, which is always good.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Tell me about, what do you think makes your business now today unique and scalable versus some others that are in the industry? Because you're not alone anymore.
So I think what makes us unique is, we mentioned the ER protocols. I think, having those standards is really important. All our staff are licensed ER professionals, and that's a brand standard that we hold that some of our competitors don't hold. And I think the brand feel, the look, the vibe that Chaz has created is unique as well. As I mentioned, you come in here, you're not going to feel like you're in a medical office. You're not going into an exam room or a tiny little place. You're going to sit in a nature-inspired, Colorado-inspired lounge that is inspirational. And I think the third pillar is the suite of services that we can offer. So in addition to the IV therapy, the hormone health, the peptides, the electrolyte line, the supplement line that we have, all of these give people myriad reasons to come in, and not just one specific thing.
Yeah. Say from a brand perspective too, with a name like Onus, we want you to come in and make one healthy choice, because the idea is that, like, if you woke up this morning and you went for a run, you're probably not chowing down on chocolate cake after that. You're probably going to have a good breakfast. And the hope is that by making one good decision, that's going to compound to the next one. So ultimately, where we stand out is our people, and our mission is really to help you make one healthy choice, so that your next one, and then your next day, and then your next month all starts to get better.
Atomic Habits, baby, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great book. All right, Kristy, give me some dirt here. Entrepreneurship is not easy, we know, right? So starting out, was there a challenge, or maybe if you can go back in time and say, man, I would have done this a little bit differently?
I think the biggest challenge is that Chaz and I are married. So in addition to having our first baby, this business, we now have a child together.
Congrats.
Thank you. And I think that the biggest challenge in the beginning was setting boundaries. It's easy to work late into the night and start early in the morning, and then all of a sudden your relationship can become all about work and the business.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we have a really good system now of checking in. And so if it's dinner time, or we're preparing dinner, it's later in the day, we'll say to each other, "Hey, are you okay to talk business right now, or are we done for the day?" And I think that setting that question on the table has really helped us, because we still have many other activities like snowboarding and mountain biking and our child and friends that we can prioritize. And it's not just all about the business. But in the early years, that was a really tough lesson to learn.
Kristy, that is great.
I think we almost broke up a couple of times.
Kristy, that is great advice. Chaz, what do you got to add to that?
Gosh. Yeah. I mean, that's just like one of the perfect things to talk about with any franchisee is, like, I guess, expectations. I didn't know what to expect. I'd never been in business before, but frankly, I'm glad I'm in business. So yeah, I'd have to think on that, but yeah, I agree with you, Kristy. Setting boundaries and knowing, when it's time to not be at work. Actually, yeah, that's a good one. Get outside. Like, you're familiar with I-9, I'm sure. Like, physical activity is huge. And I've met a lot of entrepreneurs, and some entrepreneurs don't take very good care of themselves. When we,
Right.
I think around year 2 or year 3, Kristy got me some sessions with a personal trainer. And even if you're just taking an hour for yourself, like, I'm still training with this guy. So it's been 5 years. And yeah, it's your hour of peace. And sometimes that's exactly what you need. So taking care of yourself and taking care of your marriage and your relationships is absolutely critical.
That is great advice. And I really hope as you develop this franchise and build this into a nationwide brand, I really hope that you two take what you've done together and share this with your franchise owners, believe it or not, as part of training.
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer. My wife and I have been married for 30 years. And I'd say one of the secrets to our success has been. She's always been super supportive of me, and we could always talk about things in the business, but we also had boundaries to know, what time I was coming home, especially when the kids were real little and everything. And after the kids went to bed, it was, I reopened the laptop again, and, we had rules, and believe it or not, it really helped. But more so, entrepreneurship is so lonely. And you're probably going to find that a lot of your franchise owners, it's going to be their first time owning a business, and they don't know the rules, and they're going to have these boundaries that are going to be crossed. But believe it or not, you can, within the confines of your organization and franchise training, you could do some marital counseling, believe it or not, that's going to, believe it or not, really help them, because you want your entrepreneur franchisees to be super successful. You want them to be around a long time. You want them to have this great longevity and buy and open multiple locations probably. Yeah. So I kid you not, I can't overstate this. What you've done is really something special, and I hope you make that as part of your branding.
I love that.
That's great advice, Frank. I'm going to write that down as soon as we're done. I love that.
Well, it's a hot button for me and my wife, because it made us work, and it was part of the things that I do with my franchisees to talk about it, but I don't think we did it enough.
Yeah.
So I encourage you guys. Okay, so let's talk franchising now. First of all, you've got 6 company-owned locations, which is amazing. They're all in Colorado, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. Yep.
And you've just opening your very first franchise location in Fort Collins. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, big moment.
When did you decide to franchise, and what made you guys decide franchising was going to be the way of expansion for you all?
Want me to take this one, or do you got it?
Yeah, go for it, Chaz.
Chaz is going for it.
I mean, for me personally, I'm a big fan of Howard Schultz and how he grew Starbucks. And so for a long time, we were trying to find kind of his method, because he doesn't franchise. He's actually very anti-franchise. But in trying to emulate his style of, fundraising and growth, we were just meeting some real bulldogs, some people with money who wanted to run the show. And that was getting tough. And it was like, gosh, we ever going to get some wind under these wings, And when we started to open our eyes a little bit to what franchising could be, it wasn't necessarily, there's always that lack of control that's a little bit intimidating. But what we were actually gaining was the chance to meet people who really want your brand to grow, because they love the brand. And that, to me personally, was like a light bulb moment. I was like, wait a minute, I don't have to convince somebody. They've already been a customer and they want to grow this. Like that, they already get it. That alone was like, okay, we should give this a second shot.
Wow. Kristy, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would add to that one of the pillars of our business is connecting to the community and being an important part of the community, supporting local schools, being at events, just being active and getting the word out there. And I guess another light bulb moment is that we realize we can only do that so far. We live in the Denver metro area. Where can we authentically connect to a community? And that might be as far south as Castle Rock or as far north as Boulder. But beyond that, we're kind of losing that authentic connection to a community, and better to find someone who shares our values, shares our mission, that wants to be an important part of their business community, connect to other businesses. So like, for example, up in Fort Collins, being someone that grew up there and is connected and wants to be a part of that business or bring the business out to the community was an important way for us to spread the word.
And how did you find your first franchise owner?
He was a customer since 2016, a year after we opened.
Go figure. Yeah, more and more you find when you're starting out, most of your franchise owners are going to be clients, right? You're not going to, it's so hard for you to kind of for people to sift through 4,000 franchise opportunities, on entrepreneur.com or one of these other web portals, or whether you're going through a broker group, but there's nothing better than a referral. And that's going to be probably, a good chunk of your first dozen franchise owners is you're probably going to find, which again, there's nobody better than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See that.
What do you think what's the most exciting part right now for you all being an emerging franchisor?
I think the most exciting part for me right now is our opportunity to work with Franmart. Franmart has a stellar reputation, obviously with Qdoba, Five Guys. The fact that they believe in us and wanted to partner with us was so flattering, and we're so grateful for that. And they've already made us better. They've helped us bring in people that are sharpening our toolbox. We have a grand opening person that's helping us with this grand opening in Fort Collins, and we're just really dialing it in. So the chance to improve ourselves with Franmart's team has been just wonderful.
Yeah, it's like a shot in the arm and a kick in the butt.
There you go. And who doesn't need that?
You do. Take on the challenge.
Okay, what markets are you most excited about expanding to right now as you guys are starting out in franchising?
Ooh, good question. What are you thinking, Kristy?
I'm excited to expand this out beyond the Rocky Mountain region. I think it makes a lot of sense here, but there's so many other places in the country that are, health minded, focused on self improvement and self care. I think the coastal regions are going to be huge. Also, the Midwest too. Like a lot of people there are seeking to improve their health. It's kind of just catching on there, that you can do these IV therapies and hormone health, and we're excited to help educate the consumer. So I'd say the Midwest is an exciting opportunity.
I'm excited to see how this brand changes a little bit because, right now when you walk into an Onus in Colorado, it feels like an Onus in Colorado. But,
Mhm.
do we really want to have topographic lines on the wall when we're in Miami? I really want to explore, different vibes in different areas and making that store feel like it was born there. So for me, from a
Wow.
branding perspective, your Onus is going to be yours. There's not going to be another one like it, which is really cool.
That is great. I mean, you really in your business to pay homage to that locale and to that look feel makes perfect sense, especially with the name Onus, right?
Yeah. You're going to own this Onus.
Absolutely. What about the type of person do you foresee that's going to really thrive with this franchise brand? What do you think it's going to take?
I think there's a couple different ideal franchise candidates. I think number one, the medical professional that wants to sharpen their business skills. So I think somebody that could be a nurse practitioner, a physician assistant, an RN, maybe a doctor, but they want to get into business and they're maybe sick of the hospital system and they want to try something new. I think they're going to bring their compassion, their care for people, their empathy, and they're going to really shine as Onus franchise owners. I also see the person that's maybe in business but wants to learn more about personal health and well-being as another ideal franchise candidate. So somebody who cares passionately about their health, bringing health and wellness to their community, maybe doesn't have the medical background, but we can help with that, with helping to find a medical director and comply with your state's regulations. So we can supply knowledge on either side, whether you're a medical professional looking to get into business or you're the business professional looking to learn more about healthcare.
Do the regulations change by state requirements of needing a medical director? They do.
They do. They do. Certain states are more stringent than others. Some require an MD oversight. Others allow a mid-level, like a PA or a nurse practitioner. So it really is going to vary, and we'll use our legal team to determine what's best for your state and making sure that you're compliant.
Okay. And what about somebody that's a franchise owner that is an owner operator versus somebody who wants to hire folks and just have this as a business investment? Are you open to both, or is there a particular kind of avatar you're looking for?
I think we're open to both, although we would require everybody, an owner, to be active. So even if you're going to be a little more hands off, you're still going to have to be required a certain number of hours that you're willing to put in. You got to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty.
All right. I love it. What about the investment range to open a location?
So the investment ranges from 300 to 500K. The footprint is not very large, which is kind of nice. The build out is not super involved or expensive. So typically you're looking for like a 1,200 to 1,400 square foot space. And then site selection, of course, is so important. So we're going to be very actively involved in helping to choose the locations.
Okay. And what about training and support? What does that look like?
That's super important to us because we want you, no matter what state you're in, it needs to be the same experience whether you walk into an Onus in Denver or you walk into an Onus in Dallas. It's got to be a knowledgeable, kind, caring medical professional that's going to greet you, answer your questions, help you find the right treatment for your needs. So training on the front end will be pretty involved, hands-on, flying into Denver, working with our team in our corporate stores. And then on the back end, post grand opening, we're going to come out to you and we're going to support post opening a lot of hands-on experience as well. And then training will be ongoing because medicine is always evolving.
True. Chaz, tell me what the difference I could expect if I was a franchise owner, that the home office would help me with marketing versus the stuff that I would be doing locally.
Yeah, so we're going to be responsible for the overarching message and tone that resonates with people best. In doing this for almost 10 years now, basically, we've seen the message change, initially from, yes, you can get an IV to here's why you should get an IV. And now it's why you should get an IV from us. And so in that regard, the branding will always be changing on a hyper local level. Everyone's got a different vibe. Someone in Seattle who is used to gray skies versus someone in Miami who's used to sunshine all the time. These are different mindsets, and you need to reflect what their wants and desires are, because at the end of the day, everyone thinks about themselves a lot. And so you just need to figure out a way to market to that need, which is, what about me do I want to take care of today?
That makes a lot of sense. Kristy, what about, since you just started franchising, maybe you can give maybe just some feedback on your thoughts on something that surprised you when you just started out in the process of franchising that you weren't expecting. Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I guess what I didn't think about really, which surprised me, is how long the process should be to select a candidate. It can't just be 2 or 3 meetings. It really needs to be more like 5 or 6, because people, an interview is an interview, but you want to get to really know someone and make sure they share your values, and understanding that selection process where you're kind of getting married in a way. It's a business marriage. And so taking the time and getting to know the person is paramount. And so, yeah, that was something we learned early on, is like, take your time and make the selection process really, really valuable.
Nice. Okay. So I imagine there's been many nights, you're home, you're kind of dreaming. You two are kind of talking about where we're taking this thing. So where do you think this brand is going to be? Where do you see it in the next 5 years?
So I think in the next 5 years, if we work with Franmart as we're continuing to do, their goal is to have us sell largely to multi-unit operators and to have 100 licenses sold at that point. So that's the objective, is to really take this nationwide, internationally, perhaps into Canada in the next 5 years. There's a lot of proactive healthy people up there as well, just over the border. So that is the goal, is to spread this to every state.
Amazing. Chaz, this is crazy.
Mm-hmm. It is nuts.
This is amazing, isn't it?
I was thinking about actually Japan. I really want to get to one day, because, it's interesting. They have little like chiropractic clinics and rehab centers that are just interspersed throughout the neighborhoods. When we went to Japan a couple of years ago, we saw this, and I was like, wait a minute. They're doing things proactively here. They're doing things like constantly to keep in good shape. And no wonder they live to be 1,000 basically. So I kind of want to see what our brand would be like there one day, but we'll get there.
I bet you will. I know you're starting out in franchising, but is it too soon to ask you both, what kind of legacy do you hope to leave with this brand way down the line?
I think more than anything, I would like to see us help with the mindset shift that is happening in America. I think, silver lining to COVID is that people started to think more proactively about their health. They want to stay healthy, not get sick and be reactive and go to an urgent care. And I think if this brand can become a pillar in that mindset, that is the legacy that I would like to see us leave, is that this is a place where you go to take care of yourself. And I'd like to see that 100 years from now, people still think of it as a place where they go to be mindful and proactive in taking care of themselves and living their best days.
Yeah.
Awesome. Chaz, you got a tall order with that messaging.
I think the best thing we can do is build the engine, and the car is going to be built around it as we go down the road. We've built a really strong engine. This team is amazing. I think about the chance to work with people who are medical in nature, coming from the advertising world, which is all egos basically. Getting to work with people who want to help people has been a true gift. And so no matter what the legacy is, I am grateful for the opportunity to work with people that I probably never would have had the chance to work with had I not started this company. So,
well, besides the fact that all the territories throughout the U.S. are wide open, Kristy, is there a particular reason why you feel like right now is a great time for people to join the system?
Yeah, I think now is a great time to join the system because it is so new in so many communities. It's going to be an opportunity to connect with people around you and in your community. And it's going to give them a reason to start being more mindful about their health. And so being the first in your community to bring a proactive and healthy brand to your community is an amazing opportunity.
Well, great. Chaz, if someone was interested in learning more about the franchise, where would they go?
They can head over to our website and click on the franchise button, which will get them in touch with the Franmart team. And they'll do an amazing job bringing you up to speed on what we're up to.
Awesome. What's the domain name?
onusiv.com.
All right. Fantastic. All right. I got one last question for both of you. A friend comes to you, interested in maybe buying a franchise of another brand, what piece of advice do you give them to make sure they're making the right decision?
Do your homework. Make sure you review the FDD with a franchise attorney. Spend your time getting to know the brand. Just do your homework, and also ask people that are already franchisees, like how it's going for them. Get to know the customer, get to know the staff. Yeah, I'd say just really immerse yourself in the brand before you make your decision.
Great advice. Chaz, anything else to add to that?
I'd probably say make sure you know that what you like to do as far as your hobbies go, and then make sure you know how much those matter to you, because I feel like in business, there are a lot of curveballs and you're going to have to learn to roll with the punches a little bit. So less, my advice would be less about, okay, so you want to buy a company. My advice would be more about, okay, think about your time and how that's going to get constricted, and make sure that this is what you want to do with it, because you only have so much.
Yeah, great point. You better love what you do, because if you don't, you're not getting through those bad days.
Yeah, no kidding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yep.
That's right. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show. I am rooting for you all, and I think you've got a great concept. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
so
me.
much, Frank. Thank you for the opportunity. We're grateful to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.